I'm Mr. Cole, Head of Politics at Stowe, and I'm here to talk to you about why you might want to do politics at A-level. Politics is a course for people who want to know what's going on in the world. The world is, of course, a product of political decisions. Decisions like, should governments effectively imprison people in their own homes in a time of a pandemic, or force people to be vaccinated? Should Trump be banned from Twitter? And if so, who gets to do this? Larry Page, perhaps, acting on a whim, like a modern-day Caesar, or the government, in which case propaganda and suppression are almost guaranteed? Should we just ignore the national debt? Increasingly, many would argue that we should, and in any case, politically it's just not possible to do anything, even if we wanted to, is it? How do we respond to a post-truth world of digital disinformation, in which Silicon Valley tech giants seem to have colluded in selling out democracy? And how politics has been dragged into a shadowy world of dark money, meaning often we just don't know whose money is oiling our political system. And is it true that you really can buy an election? Many of these questions and debates are reducible to power relationships, and that ultimately is what politics is really about. Who gets what and why? The course is taught in 3 different sections. In lower 6, you'll be taught UK politics, political participation, political parties, the electoral system, voting behaviour and the media. We'll also look at the philosophy behind politics of conservatism, liberalism and socialism. The other side of the course, you'll look at the UK Constitution, its Parliament, Prime Minister and the Executive, and the relationship between these branches with a focus on the judiciary and the UK Supreme Court. You'll also study feminism. Then in upper 6th form, you'll study the US, its constitution and federalism, the US Congress, presidency, and the Supreme Court and civil rights. But don't just take my word for it. After all, this could just be fake news. Here are some students from Stowe to tell you more about what studying politics is really like.
So for me, politics is the studying of the UK and US political system and how each part and aspect of it interrelates with each other, and until we get a full understanding of how everything works within the system and how it affects us.
Politics, to me, it's a really interesting subject because it helps keep me up with current affairs, and it teaches you a lot about British history and stuff, which is really interesting.
I would say that politics to me is understanding how the world's run.
Politics to me is education, education, education. It's about your society, about those around you, about the economy, about the past, the present and the future. And I am the future. I will be an MP one day.
Politics to me is really trying to understand what the bloody hell is going on in this world.
The best thing about politics is that everyone knows something about politics, so it's a really interesting conversation starter to have with someone, and it leads you on to many other interesting conversations. And everyone has a different opinion on political matters, so it's always really interesting to hear about the same issue but from different people's perspectives.
So I really like politics because it always stays relevant, so it's always changing, we're always keeping up with what's happening in the world, so it's always really interesting and really exciting. I would say that the best thing about politics is how current it is, because you'll always come into lessons and have something new to talk about because it's just constantly evolving.
The best thing is just that it never gets boring, it never ends. It's like humanity's greatest TV show, forever playing in the background.
The best thing about doing this at A-level is probably the skills that it gives you in order to be able to talk at a certain high level about politics, whether that be with your family or in more professional situations when you have to. And it's a skill that will be useful throughout your life, as if you can't talk about politics, then you probably can't talk about a lot else.
The best thing about politics has to be learning about current situations rather than in other classes just sticking to a book. We talk about everything and we talk about actual interesting stuff in politics, and it's not just on the course.
The hardest thing about the A-level for me has been the exam technique, because the discussions in class are interesting and delve in depth into different topics, and being able to be concise about that in an exam is a very hard skill to master.
The hardest thing about politics is just that there are some complex ideas which take a bit of time to understand, but it's great that we have an amazing YouTube channel, Paul Talks Politics, from our very own Mr. Floyd, so that if you are struggling to understand something or you need to top up your knowledge on a topic, you can easily just go there and watch a really good video on it.
Probably the fact that you're going to have to learn to write concisely. That's pretty difficult.
The hardest thing about politics either has to be that you, most of the time, trying to understand what is going on, or the essays. Those are special.
The hardest thing about politics is that probably it's an essay-based subject, but it is very manageable, and once you've written a few essays, like, it's very easy and you get used to it.
My favourite memory of politics is probably the lower sixth trip that you take to the Houses of Parliament. It's such a fun day out. You also get to go to the National Gallery, and you have a nice supper, and being in the Commons was really cool. We had a really fun debate as well.
The best memory I've had doing politics is when we first started studying the US political system, and we delved into the different laws that were legal in some states and illegal in the other, including bestiality, drugs, and that led to some very interesting conversations among our class, which probably aren't for this video.
And my best memory from politics is probably when we woke up really early to see the announcement of the US president.
I think the upper sixth can kind of all agree that the funniest thing about doing politics, especially over these last 2 years, has been that when we study a topic, something surrounding that topic has happened in the news that's quite a big deal. And so basically all of our lessons and essays have been pretty dependent on what happens tomorrow.
So the first thing we learnt about in the course was the British Constitution.
The UK is officially in a state of constitutional crisis.
Well, in the short term, we have a constitutional crisis in Britain.
And then we did general elections.
But they have to agree to a general election on December the 12th.
Our exit poll is suggesting that there will be a Conservative majority.
This One Nation Conservative government has been given a powerful new mandate.
This is obviously a very disappointing night for the Labour Party.
The party leader of the Lib Dems, Jo Swinson, has lost her seat.
We then learned about the media and its role in politics.
Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg testified this week before Congress and faced questions about how his platform will handle political speech in 2020.
When did Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg become aware of Cambridge Analytica?
I don't know off the top of my head.
You don't know?
Turning now to a new report that shows the massive scope of Russia's disinformation campaign during the 2016 presidential election.
Fake news. You are fake news.
And then we learnt about the EU.
The ayes to the right, 308. The noes to the left, 297. Another defeat for the government.
On the 31st of January, Britain leaves the EU, but that doesn't mean Brexit is done.
But after months of failed discussion, both sides have warned that a no-deal outcome is likely.
So we have finally found an agreement.
Glad tidings of great joy, because this is a deal.
But then we did socialism, and then feminism.
It's the socialism of the 21st century.
What has socialism done to Brazil?
It has broken Brazil. That America will never be a socialist country.
Has feminism gone too far?
Women united will never be divided.
No, I wouldn't say I'm a feminist. I mean, I think that would be maybe going too far.
Justice is about how much ladies get paid.
Thank you for your courage, and I want to tell you, I believe you. I believe you.
The most restrictive abortion bill in the country just passed in Alabama.
And then this year in the upper six, we moved on to American politics.
Joe Biden has won the American presidential election.
If you're an immigrant, you don't have to worry if the president's going to be happy to have babies snatched away or send dreamers.
We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. We will stop the steal.
Let's have trial by combat.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol.
The images are astonishing. Rioters on the Senate dais, in House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office, ransacking the hallowed halls of our government.
If none of that interests you, then don't do politics. But if it does, then this might be the subject for you.